We're up to the Mishnah on 51b1. 51b1 Nun Aleph Amid Beis at the Mishnah. So we just finished talking about the Ketairis, the incest, etc., the Kabbanos, the Par Kayin Gadol.
That's the card that says
it's
an inside card. It's supposed to be inside.
You got to put it on mute. Got to be on mute.
Right. I'm doing it right. I'm doing it right now.
Okay, no problem. Just waiting a second. Okay, great. So now that all of that has been put into place, we've got to talk about movement, the GPS of the Kohen Gadol. How did the Kohen Gadol move around in the Beis Hamikdash on Yom Kippur? So, as usual, there's not a consensus. There's a machlokes. The Kohen Gadol would walk through the Heichal. Okay, the Heichal is the Kodesh, the holy, as opposed to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is the holy of holies. Okay, so the Heichal is the Kodesh. So we've got the Ulam, which is the antechamber. If you look at diagram A on the bottom, you got the Heichal, which is the Kodesh, and then you got the two curtains over there, which lead us into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the holy of holies. Now, here we go. So the Kohen Gadol was walking through the Heichal, holding the shovel of coal and the pan of ketairis, of incest, that he needed to bring into the Kodesh HaKadoshim to offer up in front of the Aron HaKodesh, in front of the Holy Ark, once a year on Yom Kippur. Now, Ad shemagia lebein shnei haparoiches hamavdilos ben Kodesh HaKadoshim, until he walked through the Heichal, until he reached the space between the two curtains which separate the holy, the Heichal, from the holy of holies, the Kodesh HaKadoshim. If you look at the picture, you can see there's two curtains. Okay, there are two curtains. According to this Mandi Omar, there are two curtains. Ubineim Amo, and the space between the two curtains was an Amo, 6 handbreadths. Good. Rabbi Yosi Yoma, in fact, there was only one curtain there. There wasn't two curtains. Or as Rabbi Yosi would really be saying, what in the world would I need two curtains for? One curtain does the job, separates the holy from the holy of holies. So we're on 51b2, and he says, how do I know there was only one curtain? Shenema, because it says, V'ivdiloi ha'paroiches lochem ben kodesh u'ben kodesh hakadoshim, and the curtain in singular, not in plural, shall divide for you between the kodesh and the kodesh hakadoshim, between the holy and the holy of holies, between the heichal and the kodesh hakadoshim. So, Frank, the Gemara asked the question right away. Rabbi Yosi just said very well against the Rabbanon. He brought a proof from a pasuk that says, "The diloi haparoiches," and the curtain shall divide, meaning that there's only one curtain. So how do the Rabbanon say that no, in the second Beis Hamikdash there were two curtains? And again, the obvious question should be, the Mishnah was written only 100 years after the Churban Bayis Sheni. How is it that they completely forgot something so fundamental like the curtains? But the answer is very simple. We people, today is 2021. 100 years ago was 1921. Can anybody really tell me how life ran in the Altaheim, in the old shtetl? The answer is no, we can't. We have a romanticized version of it. We have a terrible version of it. But the day-to-day life and what exactly took place there, we have no clue. And it was only 100 years ago. That's what destruction does. Destruction doesn't just misplace us. It literally takes away our memories. That's what it does. So anyways, here we go. So the Rabbanan Amalach, the Rabbanan would tell us, This passage that says and the curtain shall separate in singular. That's only in the Mishkan that was in the Midbar, in the wilderness. But in the second temple, since there was no of the thick dividing wall between the holy and the holy of holies, between the Eichel and the Kodesh HaKadoshim, because in the first base Hamikdash there was no curtain, there was a wall. There was an thick wall dividing the holy from the holy of holies. And the Chazal who were building the second base of Hamikdash were in doubt. They didn't know regarding the degree of Kedusha of the Amma space that originally in the first base of Hamikdash was taken up by the thick wall. Does it have the holiness of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, or no, does it have the holiness of just the Heichal? And therefore they made two curtains to enclose that Amma of space and say that only the Kohen Gadol can go there on Yom Kippur. Since they were uncertain about that Amma space, whether it is only the Heichal and any Kohen is allowed there, or is it part of the Kodesh Kadoshim, meaning only on Yom Kippur and only the Kohen Gadol is allowed there? So therefore they did two curtains in the second base of Hamikdash. Says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, Be'mizbeach le'menoiro haya mahalach. When he was walking in the Heichal towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Kohen Gadol walked between the Mizbeach HaBenimi, the inside Mizbeach. Obviously, we're talking about in the Heichal, so it's the inside Mizbeach as opposed to the outside Mizbeach, which was in the Azara. So, once again, Bein HaMizbeach HaMenorah, he walked between the Mizbeach and the Menorah HaYabahalach. In other words, he walked to the south area of the Heichal. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Those are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. If you look at diagram B, the point is that the opening to walk into in between the curtains was on the south end. Rav Meir says, now we're on 51b3, in fact, he walked between the golden table and the inner Mizbeach and the inner altar, which means that he walked to the north. He was walking, the opening was in fact in the north. And Rabbi Yossi, who holds there's only one curtain, look at diagram C. Diagram C. He walked, actually, diagram D, between, give me a second. All right, look at diagram C for the moment. Right, is it diagram C? I'm sorry, it's diagram D, actually. Diagram D, okay, diagram D, it's Rav Meir. He walked on the north side between the Mizbeach and the Shulchan, the golden table, and he walked into on the north side was the opening of the one curtain that led into the Holy of Holies. The Yesh Oimrim and others say, in fact, bein Shulchan l'Kaisel, that in fact he walked along the edge of the wall. Diagram C. He walked between the table, the golden table, and the actual wall of the north side of the Eichel. So says the Gemara, first of all, Ma Yesh Oimrim, who are the Yesh Oimrim? Amar Rav Chisda, Rabbi Yossi, it's Rabbi Yossi, the Amar Pischa B'Tzofenkai. The entrance to the Kodesh HaKadoshim was in the north of the Eichel, which is what we're showing. So the machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda is that he holds the opening was in the south and we're dealing with two curtains. Rav Meir and Rabbi Yossi clearly are saying it's in the north. So says the Gemara, the Rabbi Yehuda Amalach Pischa B'Darim Kai, that no, the entrance to the Kodesh HaKadoshim in fact opened up in the south area of the Heichal. The Rav Meir Kamat Svirale, Rav Meir, who does he hold like? Rabbi Yehuda, Svirale, Nitulek Rabbi Yehuda. If he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, then he should hold that the Tekayin Gadol enters the Kodesh HaKadoshim, like Rabbi Yehuda said, from the south, between the Mizbeach HaPanimi and the Menorah. Rabbi Yosi, Svirale, if he holds like Rabbi Yosi, Nitul Rabbi Yosi, he should say like Rabbi Yosi that he should walk between the Shulchan and the wall. Why does Rabbi Meir say that the Kohen Gadol passes between the Mizbeach HaPanimi and the Shulchan? In other words, diagram D says the Gemara Li'olam ki Rabbi Yosi Svirale. And Rabbi Meir holds like Rabbi Yosi that the opening is in the north. Rabbi Meir would tell you that the Shulchan was placed north to south. See diagram D. You see the table over there? It's facing north to south. So therefore, now we're on 51b4. And therefore, the table obstructed the path of the Kohen Gadol, and he would not be able to enter along the north wall because part of the table was flush against the north wall. So obviously he would bang into the table. So he had to walk around the table. That's why he said he went between the Mizbeach HaPanimi and the table. The E-Boy Yisema, we're on 51b4. The E-Boy Yisema, L'olam Mizrach Umarav Menochet. Actually, Rameya holds that the table was going from east to west. So therefore, there was room to walk around the table along the back wall, along the north wall. So why doesn't he do that? And he answers, Mishum Shechina, because the Shechina, the divine presence, which resides in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, Lav Oirach Ara, it would not be proper behavior to Korban. Now we're on today's stop, Beis Amid Aleph, Limeya Lahadi, for the guy in Gadol to walk directly into the entrance. It's improper for him to feel so comfortable that he's walking right into the entrance, as opposed to taking a little more of a fearful, an awe-inspiring walk to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Rabbi Yosi Amalach, again we're on 52a1. The Rabbi Yosi Amalach and Rabbi Yosi, who says that the Kohen Gadol does walk along the north wall. What would he say about this? That it's not respectful to walk directly into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. He would say beautifully, Chavivin Yisrael Shulaihutz Tzirichen HaKosav L'Shliach. The Jews are beloved since the Torah does not require them to have a shaliach, an emissary, to get in between Hashem and themselves. Look at Rashi, 3 lines from the top. Amalach Chavivin Yisrael Shulayitzrichen HaKosav L'Shliach. Elo, no. Elo, kol echad ve'echad mispalal al atzmai. Each and every Jew prays for himself. Shenemar, asher yodun ish noga levoboy. Each man shall know his heart. Ufarash kipiv, el beis hazeh abayis hazeh, and will come and be mifarish in this house. Hilkach, therefore, chaviv hu shaluchan, there, Klal Yisrael Shaliach, who is of course the Kodesh HaKadoshim, which is obviously the Kohen Gadol, who on our behalf goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies, on the holiest of days on Yom Kippur. Lichnas lepumeh. He comes in, it goes, he can walk straight in. In this Rashi, which is of course this Gemara, this is a direct take against Catholicism. In the words of the Gemara, the Noitzrim, the Nazarites, the Noitzrim, that's how they're called in the Gemara. Remember, Islam did not exist at the time when the Gemara was finalized. The Noitzrim, the Catholics, were well on their way. The Council of Nice had already taken place. They had already changed Shabbos, from Shabbos to Sunday, 300 years after the passing of Yoshka. In short, what they said in essence is that God is too far. God is too distant. We need an emissary. We say that is adultery. There is no such thing. We are the children of God. Children can talk to their father. That is why when you go to a cemetery, you go to a kivrei avos, kivrei tzadikim, you go to the grave of a tzaddik. You never pray to the tzaddik to what it called, to bring your prayers to God. You pray to Hashem that bezechus, the tzaddik that you're davening by, you should listen to your tefillos. In fact, the Ribnitzer Rebbe, his kever in Monsey, there is a sign on the wall that says exactly that. Remember, you're davening to the Rebbeinu Shalom, you're not davening to the Ribnitzer. And that is the reason why we do not know where Moshe Rabbeinu's kever is. Because imagine we did know where Moshe Rabbeinu's kever was. Imagine we knew where Moses was buried. You can imagine we would never stop visiting, right? And it would become like a religious pilgrimage, making Moshe into a demigod. So the Eibishter said, no one's going to know where you're buried. And that's the way it is. And this is the reason why. Now, the Rabbi Yehuda, so according to Rabbi Yehuda, who says the opening is in the south, let the Kohen Gadol walk between the menorah and the south wall, rather between the Mizbeach HaPanimi and the menorah. Why is he taking such a circular route? Let him take a straight route. If we're beloved by a Kadosh Baruch Hu, we can go to him straight. The reason for that is because his clothes would get black, because the menorah was near the wall and all the soot from the smoke from the menorah was on the wall. We don't want it to get black. By the way, it's a very good point. As everybody knows, how do we start brachas? Baruch Atah Hashem. Blessed are you, Hashem. We don't say Baruch Hashem. Blessed is Hashem. Talk to him in the third person. We talk to him in the first person. Baruch Atah Hashem. Blessed are you, Hashem. If you ever thought about it, that's the way we talk to each other. And we don't even talk that way to our parents. We say, Daddy. I say, Daddy, you said. There are actually people who say, Abba Omar. Daddy said. They talk to their father in the third person. They don't even go that way. So I don't do that. I go, Daddy, you said. But it's always Daddy first. When it comes to the Rebbeinu Shalom, we say, Baruch Atah, Ben Shtar, you, Hashem. We'd say first, you, Hashem. Our relationship and the way we talk to Hashem is so close. If you analyze the words, you realize not distance, but extraordinarily close. And this is what we're saying. Habibi Yisod Shlo Yitzchak HaKosav L'Shliach. Further, says the Gemara, Amar Rav Nosson, Amo Tiraxin, the Amo thick wall that divided the holy from the Holy of Holies in the first base of English. Lo Yechriu B'ay Chachamim I Kibla Pneim Or L'Chutz. To say the Rabbanim were not sure whether this area that the wall took up was like the Kodesh HaKadoshim, or in fact was like the Heichal. So that's the real question. So now says the Gemara, Maskef Lo Rabino, my Tamo. What was their doubt? Because it says in the pasuk, and I'm not going to go through all the math. We're just going to summarize. The house that Shlomo HaMelech made for Hashem. The 60 amas was its length, 20 its width, and 30 its height. Okay, and the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the holy and the holy of holies. The temple was 40 amas long, that is the Heichel at the front. the front part of the Heichal before the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Ksebel Lefnei Advir Esim Amma, behind the partition, i.e. the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the area was 20 amas in length. 20 amas oirech, Esim Amma Roichem, and 20 amas wide, Esim Amma Kaimosai, and 20 amas was its height. So we see that the total length of the inside part of the Beis Hamikdash, the Heichal and the Kodesh HaKadoshim, was 60 amas, the Heichal being 40 amas, the Kodesh HaKadoshim being 20 amas. 40 plus 20 is 60. Below Yodin and Amatax in Imahani Esim, Imahani Aboim, and that one Amma dividing wall. We didn't know, we're not sure, does it belong to the 40 amas of the Heichal or the 20 amas of the Kodesh HaKadoshim? If you're telling me that's the doubt of the Rabbanon, says Ravina, I'm going to tell you that's not the case. I could give the Dilma, perhaps, in fact, that one Amma divide was not part of the 40 amas of the Heichal and not part of the 20 amas of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It was, in fact, an extra Amma onto itself, not counted in the count. And the Torah is only counting the dimensions of the Heichals, of the Kodesh and the Kodesh Kadoshim open space, but not the space accompanied by a wall where you can't walk. Teda, and I'll tell you the proof, the Choshev Kaisim Choshev later today. Forever spaces were took up in the walls, where were counted. The Amma accompanied by the dividing wall is always counted separate from the 40 amas of the Heichal and the 20 amas of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. It's not, we're on 52A2, 52A2. Ditznan Heichal Meya Al Meya Baru Meya. Here it doesn't mean the Heichal. Here it means the whole Beis Hamikdash, the entire complex. The entire complex, the Azoros, the Ulam, the Heichal, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the area behind the Kodesh HaKadoshim, all of it measured 100 amas by 100 amas with a height of 100 amas. From east to west, it measured Kaisel Ulam Chamesh. The exterior wall of the Ulam was 5 amas thick. The Ulam Achas Esra, and the Ulam itself was 11 amas across. So you know that's the T. If you look at the diagram, that's the T. And you see it says 11 amas across. Okay? The wall of the Heichal was 6 amas thick, as you can see in the diagram. Okay? The length of the Heichal itself, as we've said before, was 40 amas. The Amma Tiraxin, and then came the Amma of the dividing wall, the Esrim Amma base Kodesh HaKadosh, and then 20 amas length of the Holy of Holies. Kaisel HaHeichal Sheish, the western wall of the Heichal, the back wall of the Kodesh HaKadoshim is 6 amas. V'hatah Sheish, and the compartment behind the Kodesh HaKadoshim is 6 amas, as you can see in the back, in the picture, or leading out to the back. V'hakoisel hatah chamesh, and the outer wall was 5 amas thick. So the length was 100 amas. We see from here that the space that was taken up by the wall is separately counted from the 40 amas of the Heichal and the 20 amas of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So what was their doubt? It's neither the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it's neither the Heichal. It's its own space. Said the Gemara, Ela Kedusha say, they weren't talking about the wall itself, they were talking about its sanctity. Does it have the sanctity of Ikilifnim, Ikilachotz? Does it have the sanctity? Is it equal in sanctity to the Holy of Holies? Or is it equal to sanctity to the Holy and not the Holy of Holies? But Eino Chanami, in fact, the space of the Heichal in its reality was 61 amas, not 60 amas. Why do we care? Let's just stop for 1 minute. Why do we care? And the answer we care is because the Beis Hamikdash was our heart and our soul. Our heart beat to the beat of the Beis Hamikdash. The homes that we own Before we bought it, we knew the exact square feet. We have an exact square feet house. This is what it is. That's what we're saying. This is our home, and we want to know the measurements to exactness. Behind the Yoma Rabbi Yochanan, this is what Rabbi Yochanan said. Boy Yosef ish hutzal, Yosef the leader, the mayor, if you want to call him, of Hutzal, asked about this pasuk. Udevir b'saych habayis mepnima ha'echet l'sitein shames haroim b'ris Hashem. A partition within the base of Mikdash, towards the inside, he prepared in order to place the Ark of the Covenant, the Aron HaKodesh of Hashem, i.e., we're talking about he put a curtain in front of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. He asked, Heichi Kamer Al-Kra, what's the pasuk talking about? Utavir b'saych habayis, did he mean the partition within the base of Mikdash to divide it into two sections? We are now 52:8:3. And towards the inside, he prepared an area. It means that the partition itself was not of the holy, sanctified to the same degree as the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The curtain was there to separate, and then he made a room. So the room is the room. The curtain is not as holy as the room itself. A partition within the temple towards the inside, which means that the curtain is part of the inside. The curtain is part of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Says the Gemara, me maspele. But was of Yosef Hutzel really in doubt as to how you describe the pasuk? Is the word this penima? Is it attached to the first part of the pasuk, which would indicate that it's part of the Kodesh HaKadoshim, or is it attached to the second part of the pasuk, which would mean that it's outside, it's the separator, but it's not part of the Kodesh HaKadoshim? But Tanya, we learned Isi ben Yehuda. Remember that name, Isi ben Yehuda. Isi ben Yehuda said, "Chomesh mikrayis b'Torah ein lehem hechler." There are 5 psukim in the Torah whose structure cannot be determined whether a phrase belongs in the first part or a phrase belongs in the second. Amid Beis, the 52b1, and I'm going to tell everybody we're going to work our way down the art scroll on the bottom of the notes, okay, for each one of these words. Se'es, when Hashem appeared to Cain, he said the words, Vayom Hashem Elokeim Lama Charoloch V'Lama Naflu Panecha, and then it says, Haloi Imtesiv Se'es, surely if you will improve yourself, the Imloi Seitiv, and you will be right. Haloi Imtativ, if you will improve yourself, Se'es, you will be forgiven. The Imloi Seitiv, and if you will not improve yourself, the sin rests at your door. So the se'es can go one of 2 ways. You can do it like this. Why are you annoyed? Why is you can't disfollow? Surely if you improve yourself, you should not be annoyed. Your iniquity should not be you. You should not improve. So in other words, we're not sure. Does it mean that you will be forgiven? Or does it mean that you will bear your sin? You can learn it the first way or the second way. Nishukodim, the next one, enlarged like almonds. That was about the menorah. The menorah, it says, menorah arbol geviyim, 4 cups. Mishukodim, engraved like almonds. Kaptorev and barachet, its knobs and its flowers. And now, it's unclear whether the word mishukodim applies to the cups mentioned before or the knobs and the flowers mentioned afterwards. Further, Machar, it says Machar, this says, Vayem Moshe Yeshua, B'char lonu anoshim, v'tzei alochem b'Amalek, choose people and go battle with Amalek, Machar, tomorrow, Anoichi nitzav al rosh hagivah v'itma b'umata l'kim b'yodi. I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of Hashem in my hand. It's unclear whether Machar means go to war tomorrow, or it means you go to war today. And tomorrow, when you're going to need my help, I'll go up on the mountain and raise my hand. Or cursed. It says over there regarding Shimon and Levi. Shimon Levi Achim Ba'apam Hargu Ish Retzaitzum Iku Shar Or Apam Kioz. Accursed is their rage for his intents. So it can be understood one of two ways. It could be that at their whim they hamstrung the ox of an accursed person. That in fact they hamstrung the ox belonging to Shechem, the member of Canaan. Or does it talking about them themselves that they're angry? Their anger is cursed. And the last one is Vikam. Over there it says, "Vayoma Hashem al Moshe hintchei shevchim emasecha v'kam am hazeh v'zona achrei lekei necha haaretz." Moshe, you will lie with your forefathers, but this people will rise up and stray after other gods. The word "v'kam" can either refer to the people, this people. In other words, it goes like this, but you can learn it all. Or you could say, "Behold, you will lie with your forefathers, but will rise up by tchiyas hamesim." And these people will stray. There's no clarity as to which way it goes. But either way, now it says, the one who just said this, Vatanya, who Yosef is Hutzel, Yosef Hutzel, who Yosef Abavli, he was also known as Yosef the Babylonian, who Isi ben Yehuda, he's also known as Isi ben Yehuda, who's the one who just said this paraiso, who Isi ben Gamliel, who Isi ben Mahalel, Umar Shemai, what was his real name? Isi ben Akiba Shemai. So, since Yosef, the leader of Hutzel, is the same as Isi ben Yehuda, how could he have a doubt with regard to the Beis Hamikdash and the wall, where it belongs, whether it's part of the Kodesh HaKadoshim or the Kodesh, when in fact he has a brisa in his own name that said that does not bring this down as one of those uncertainties. Now, why all the names? All the names is very simple. The reason why before we were Zimmermans, we were Rosenwassers. Every time a grandfather had to run away from the draft in Eastern Europe, they changed the last name. Same thing over here. Every time he had to run away from the draft or from the government, right, his last name got changed. That was the way of hiding his identity. So after the Gemara, the Berai Seleka, the Neviah Ika. You're right. In the books of Moshe, there are no other psukim that have a grammatical uncertainty. But by the Nevi'im, there are plenty. Who Berai Seleka, it's actually that there are no more ambiguous pasukim in the Torah. For Ika the Be'er of Chisda, there's the pasuk of Chisda. Yishlach esnare b'nei Yisrael v'yalu oilos kivasim. He went from the youths of the children of Israel, and they brought up oilo offerings, which are kivasim, lambs. V'yizbechu zevachim l'shlomim l'Hashem parim, and they slaughtered the shlomim offerings to Hashem, which are bulls. Oidilma, Idi v'Idi parim.
Where are you, Yitzhak?
Daddy, we're actually just about to finish. We're finishing right now. We're on. We're about to do the Mishnah on Nun Bay. We're about to stop at the Mishnah on Nun Bay's of the days. Nun Bay's of the days. And so says the Gemara, Rav Chisda Masapkale. To Rav Chisda, the meaning of the pasuk was questionable. Le'isi ben Yehuda, who's also Yosi of Hutzel. Le'isi ben Yehuda Pshitale. The Isi ben Yehuda was obvious. It was obvious, what do you call it, that thing. Now, what was obvious? The answer is we don't know what was obvious. We actually don't know if the children over there brought kivasim lambs or they brought parim. The truth is, Isi ben Yehuda, he knew, but we have no idea what Isi ben Yehuda actually holds. So that's a very interesting thing, the way the Mishnah pulls up over here. The Isi ben Yehuda Push. So, in short, just to wrap this up, in walking to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, there was either the opening between the two curtains on the south or on the north. If it was on the south, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you walk between the menorah and the mizbeach hapanimi, but not between the mizbeach hapanimi and the kaisel and the wall. Not because we can't walk directly in. along the wall, because Chavivi Yisol, the Klal Yisol is Chaviv, is Choshev in the eyes of Hashem, that we can daven straight to Hashem. That's not a problem. We can approach him, Baruch Ata, benched are you. Remember, like I said, that when I speak to my father, I'll say, Daddy, you said, not you, Daddy said. But when we talk to Hashem, we say, you, Daddy, you, Tata, you, Hashem. So we talk to him much more irreverently than we talk to our own fathers, which is a remarkable thing. And this is where the Gemara is. And again, that Gemara is the Gemara that is the contrast to the Noitzrim, the Nazarites, the Catholics, who said God is so far, you needed intermarries in between. And we, of course, say absolutely not. That borders on adultery, and that is the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu's kever is hidden. And then we went through the rest of the Gemara already, which was along the same lines. Tomorrow